So a little addendum video to this week. Something that happened when I was working on this, that got caught in the video, was that the shaders, the materials kind of disappeared in a way. Basically, I wanted to test stuff before I showed it in the video, which I do all the time. So I moved the root control and the root joint under the global control, and then went, okay, great, it works the way I wanted to, and then I hit undo. And when I hit undo, it basically everything broke. So I'm trying to replicate that now. I have a few extra steps to go. Let's see, because I know I moved it around a little bit. Aha! This is what happened. Um, and there's a few different things that can be going on here. Now, one thing I did right away was I saved as, and I called it Mac Arm Rig Start was the original name, and I called it broke. And I kind of kept that as a file. Now it turns out when I open it up again, it actually is no longer broke. Um, so that means it's kind of solved. And it also, if you reconnect things, if I reconnect these two things to the global control, it also unbreaks. But I wanted to take a look at kind of, what this sort of looks like, because there's different reasons why this might turn out this way. And one that I find interesting about this particular broken sequence is that this is still here. A lot of times when you get this bright green, the actual materials vanish. And so you would end up with, let's say, Windows rendering editor, Hypershade. You might end up with a hypershade that doesn't actually have any shaders in it, or the shaders themselves are blank, but these shaders say they're there, and it does seem like it's attached to this. Now, that combined with the fact that the saved file that was broken turned out okay, it tells me that there's maybe something a little bit different going on. There are different variations on what can happen here. So if I call this broke2 and I save it and I close it and I go back in, I pause the video so that you wouldn't have to watch me open and close Maya files, and we can see that it's actually reconnected. So the information we gathered, right, because this is troubleshooting, is that closing the file and going back in fixes the problem, or redoing what had been undone also fixes the problem. And I don't mean redo as in the sense of like edit, redo. I mean redo as in the sense of like I re-put these things under the global control. And that tells me that we've got a bit of just glitchiness going on. That combined with the fact that this is a very old file has me suspecting that there's just simply something wrong with the materials. That I frankly find these materials to be untrustworthy, if I'm going to be totally honest. And so what I would actually want to do is under this new system, like I'm now in Maya, whatever version of Maya this is. There we go. Right click. I would assign a new material to everything, and maybe call it a Lambert, and then let's see, body new material. Right, and I could do that actually for each of these. I'm just going to assign them all to the same material for right now because I don't want to like waste your all's time. So right click, existing material, body new material. And then I would go into the hypershade right here, and except for Lambert 1, I'm going to get rid of all these. Let's see, upper. I'm leaving Lambert 1, I'm leaving the new material, and then these 3 are also standard shaders that come with Maya, and I'm getting rid of the other ones. And I'm basically starting from scratch in a lot of ways. So now I would go in and I would, let's see, right click, new material, and this would be, again, a Lambert. That would be upper, new material. And I could set my colors or whatever. But truth be told, I would want to get rid of the old ones. I don't trust them. There we go. And I feel like that's what was one of the things that was causing the problem. So we know it's materials related. We know it's something with the connections between the material and the shape. But oftentimes, I'm not that much of a technical expert on these certain things. No one is. And that bright green can mean any number of things. And so for me, just from my experience, when I see that combined with the fact that it kind of comes and goes as a problem, it tells me that there was something wrong with these old materials. So I got rid of them. And I got rid of them because I don't like problems that crop up and go away and then crop up and then go away. It doesn't mean it's fixed. The fact that we opened this up and, oh, it's all better. It's not all better. So I was expecting this video to be a little bit different because I thought the problem was a little bit different. I wanted to kind of search through it like live here. But because there are other times that bright green shows up, but in this case, it turns out to be weirdly intermittent. Truth be told, we should just get rid of the old materials, put new ones on. Your file will have the old materials because I don't have time to just replace them all right now. But just know that if you're having that sort of problem, save the file, close out, go back in. Worst case scenario, maybe those materials are still bright green. You can right click assign new material and you will get new materials to things, right? There's only 4 pieces. You can make them all the same color if you really wanted to. But that bright green means that there's a lack of connection between, let's see here. Actually, no, wrong hypergraph. Windows, General Editor, Hypergraph Connections. There we go. So this is the shape node, and then this is a shader node. And there we go. So here's a material, and it has to pass through this in order to basically get to this, and then they go to links and render partitions, or lights and render partitions. And there's basically a problem with this. That was connected to the old shader. So you can see these two have to connect through another third party. I think this third party was the broken part. And so I replaced it by getting rid of all the old materials and assigning new ones. A little bit tedious, but I think worth it to not have, broken stuff. But don't panic when you see the lack of shaders. It should. Oh, that didn't work. Well, there's another interesting problem. I'm trying to get this to. There we go. Okay. I think it's because I had something selected, but it wasn't following this. But we can test this now. So we can do this, and I can say undo. Ah, interesting. So that still did not quite solve the problem. It may be that the file is just straight up too old at this point. These were probably made about 15 years ago. And I can assign new material. Yeah, for some reason that shader node is not like transferring with all of this. So there's Lambert 10. Yeah, you see Lambert 10, shading group, all the same lights, all the same render partitions. If I hit this, there we go. Yeah, so it would appear that even replacing the materials, which is a good idea usually, is not quite the solution that we were hoping for. Which means there's even a deeper problem with this file, and which means I'll probably have to replace it. There would be ways to fix this if I was more technically oriented in terms of like looking at the script editor, which is down here, and so you can. Yeah, here we go. Sets renderable true, no surface shader true empty. So it's not finding the surface shader for things. That's why we're getting the green. But I'll bet if I save and come back in, it'll be okay. So yeah, this is a sign that there's something kind of wrong under the hood with the file. And as much as it sucks, I don't have time to do it for this semester, but I am going to have to remodel the whole thing from scratch. Not going to take me that long. It's a pretty simple model, but that's the trade-off. It's easier to remodel this than to figure out what on earth is going on, and it would make sure that there was no residual nonsense from other files. One last thing I could try would be to, there is optimize scene size. I can go into here and there's something called unknown. Now it's going to get rid of, I think I can, oh, hello. Shoot, I just accidentally tried to open it in Notepad. Um, I want to remove unknown nodes here. So I hit apply. And that's the kind of thing you can do too, where you try to remove nodes that it doesn't recognize anymore. Then I would, of course, have to save it and go back in. So those are the two steps I would take if when you run into these kinds of problems first. Otherwise, it means there's a deeper problem and we might need to rebuild.